Here are top 10 services you ought to get familiar with. Welcome to TNGS Learning Solutions, and I am your host, Will. If you're looking to break into the world of IT as a cloud engineer, as an AWS engineer, or as a solutions architect, here are services that you ought to get familiar with. EC2 is basically a virtual machine in AWS. It is a service that allows for you to deploy a virtual machine to host an application. Could be a web application or an internal application. It can also be used for development purposes. There are other use cases an organization might use an EC2 instance, but we're not going to dive into those details. An EC2 is the most easiest way to deploy and host a web application, for example, a WordPress application, or any application you might host and access remotely. S3, also known as Simple Storage Service, is one of the legacy services that existed in AWS initially. It is a file storage service which can be used to store files, manage files, and also retrieve that file when you need it. There are multiple layers or multiple tiers within the S3 storage service which you can utilize for different use cases. For example, storing data for a short-term period or storing data for a longer period of time. There are cost differences associated with these different tiers and other use cases. Lambda is a serverless compute service similarly to EC2, which is a compute service, but the difference between a Lambda and an EC2 is that within the Lambda, you wouldn't have to worry about managing a server. It is a service where you can just use the service to run your code without managing a server. A Lambda will be used for web application or maybe event-driven scenarios. A virtual private cloud is basically a security and network foundation service in AWS. It allows you to isolate your workloads. It also allows for you to create a network infrastructure that will embed your applications or your workloads in the AWS environment to allow for connectivity internally, externally, or between different workloads as well. It encapsulates various applications and prevent outside attacks. Also a great way to secure your workloads, define the connectivity properties or configurations for how you want to access resources within your cloud environment. Identity and Access Management Service, or IAM in AWS, is a security service that allows for different use cases. How you allow access into your AWS environment or into your AWS account is through the Identity and Access Management Service. It allows for you to create users, groups, and also create roles where you define connectivity. IAM is an authorization and authentication service in AWS. CloudWatch is a monitoring service that monitors your workloads in AWS environment. With every workload you deploy in AWS environment, you want to monitor it over time. CloudFormation is an alternative means to deploy your workloads in AWS, also referred to as infrastructure as code. By writing either a JSON or YAML formatted code and deploy using the CloudFormation service. CloudFormation allows you to remotely deploy and manage your cloud infrastructure and services within the AWS environment. DynamoDB is a NoSQL database service in AWS that allows you to manage and store data without using a relational database management system. If you have specific data requirements not RDBMS compatible or that's not compatible with a relational database management system, DynamoDB is the right service for you. It is popularly used in event-driven scenarios. API Gateway is a fully managed service where you can securely manage scalable APIs without having to manage the core infrastructure. For example, you can manage REST or WebSockets for Lambda applications and microservices in the AWS environment. If you need more information on this, please look in the description or follow or subscribe to this channel as we post subsequent videos to help guide you to succeed in the AWS environment. Stay tuned. Audio Jungle.